erasing my name from the document.
Maybe
it was me actually. I'm sorry. we're all typing at the same time. So
we're all so eager to get our name on that. We're just tripping.
I undid it.
Come on, Douglas. Stop breaking things.
I know.
Okay then.
We're only here because I like breaking things.
Okay, so it's going to be a momentous day. I'm going to attempt to share my screen today. So how about that?
Wow.
So we've only got. Hey, Roger, how did that happen?
I had to just cut in there. Jim sharing his screen. None of you realise how that is.
I'm sweating. It's going to be. That's another piece of technology I'm dealing with, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the meeting. It's coming up to 5 past. I'm going to just ask Adam if we are live streaming at the moment. What I'm going to do is I've sort of took the first one we had, I sort of just took a few pointers from the last meeting of the go, no-go call. I think we've had a lot more voting since then, so I think we're going to use the same system, which is in the chat. We're not going to do a verbal like we did last time because we have issues with people not having microphones and people like Adam on Detroit with sounding like a Dalek. So I think what we'll do is we will just do the normal votes as in the chat, and we will put them we'll capture the chat, and it is caught on the live stream as well, and it is in the minutes, not the minutes, it's in a copy of the agenda. And can I just point out that I will repost yesterday's agenda, which has got all the results and all the results of all the chat votes on it, which I've thank you, Phil. Me and Phil have put that together. And if you want to double check the results of that and just check that your vote is correctly registered, then please do that. But I will put that. I didn't put it up before in case I put the wrong one up again. So I have to get that right. So the idea of this is we're going to discuss the marks, we're going to go for a vote, and then we are going to, whether we get an A or B, that determines the rest of the meeting. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Okay, it's hopefully done that now. Is there anybody on the call who thinks that they shouldn't be green? That's the first thing I'm going to ask. Is everybody happy that they are green? Okay.
Jerry Huff from Blind Block Art.
Thank you, Jerry.
We found a few bugs last night, a few minor ones, and I just wanted on record that network maintenance is not ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
We can all go home now.
Well, I just want to make sure that everyone's actually happy that those specific items are green, and we're happy that they're green.
Well, that would
enforce minimums. That I don't know that we decide to remove that one completely.
Okay. Are you saying that we should have that removed?
Well, I mean, we just decided that early on in the initial launch stage that we weren't actually going to be able to enforce BP minimums.
Okay, but we have got the document, have we not?
We due to changes in how the enforcement was set up to allow initially, until we had that fully set up, the BPs to actually enact that, and we're going to go off automatic enforcement based on that change we made. So that is so that no longer the requirement is no longer that's automatic enforcement based on the political change, the legislative change we made. So that we are able to enforce those. I think that's fine. What do others think?
Yeah, and JT, I summarized. We had a call about this, and in development, and I'd summarized the outcome of that call. I'll share it with you directly on Slack as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Okay then. So if we could, we've got a couple of yellows in that group. It does. I don't really want to discuss them as such because we can go back to that later. I'm trying to work out, does anybody think that they shouldn't be yellow, that they should either be green or they should be white?
That seems right to me.
Okay. So going down on governance, so we've got two yellows on there. Going down to the governance, we've got one yellow and four green. Just looking at the greens, is everybody happy that we've got the correct that should no isn't happy about that?
I haven't technically list here all the 7 documents or just one. Governance has more documents. Maybe each one of them is important.
On
which is a smart contract we need to deploy, or we need to have some other way to vote those. I believe that Craig Branscombe at Good Block is going to.
Or do we need needs to be here or not?
Well, I think it is because it's part of the ratified final governance program statement. It's the catch-all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you just said, Jim, it's a catch-all that includes everything we passed. All 6 documents that we passed are keep this simple.
Those there. That they should be yellow. He's obviously shaking his head. I can't see anybody else.
I think for the Good Block development team set, we're making great progress. But we some of the excellent testers found some exploits. The code, as I was mentioning yesterday, the code worked on some of these, and but it worked, and yet there we're still voting as that we have now have solutions for, but testing has to happen again. So
thank you, Douglas. So obviously we've got a lot of yellows there. Nobody's saying that they should be green, so that's obviously going to influence how people vote, or hopefully will influence how people vote. On the tool side of things, we've got 3 greens. Is the group happy that they should all be green? I'm sort of looking at Marvin a little bit here.
Yeah, I believe so. Specifically for the first 2, I know the Amplified team worked on the Block Explorer. We worked on the wallet. And you guys obviously know about the exchanges, so absolutely.
Okay, thanks very much. So moving down to miscellaneous, we've got, can I just look at the 5 greens that we've got there? The community rewards, launch group rewards, verified Genesis snapshots, 40 BPs, 2 testnets up. Are we happy that they're green? Is that correct?
Those all seem good to me. I would say 40. So the way this is written, at least 40 BP candidates have successfully participated in test launches. That's written that way. I mean, I know that Good Block wrote that way. I don't know when that became the standard. I don't know if that would actually be possible until we launch, but certainly we have well over 40 real valid BP candidates on who are running on the testnet. And frankly, we're about to launch a new one today or tomorrow. So I think that's very valid. If we were literally, if we were all greens, we could, if we were all greens, we could have a little finer discussion about that. And we could also have a finer discussion about whether the Block Explorer currently has voting enabled, little things like that. In the context of what we're really discussing today, I think those are perfectly fine to call.
Okay then, so we've got yellows, we've got inclusive matchup accounts, lost tokens and define final Telos token balance. So I take it that is correct, that they're yellow, that they shouldn't be white, or they shouldn't be green. We're happy with those at the moment.
I think that the Telos Foundation system is probably should not be white, because we've actually brought in the governance. All we're waiting for is a voting token. But again, in the context of what we're talking about today, since I don't think it could, based on our standard of all greens, call this all greens. I think that's probably fine.
I would also say that agree upon a BP launch group 6 across the globe should be yellow, because we've started that process and have
Okay, thanks.
Agreed. That's probably one day from green, I would think. What do you think, JT?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. And so what I'd like to do now is move to a vote, unless anybody else wants to discuss these any further. And when we move to a vote, we've got a vote to yes to launch and a vote to no to then go through and decide how we move forward. So, am I okay to move to a vote? Would anybody like to propose that, please?
I move that we vote.
Seconder, please.
I
James,
second that.
is going to second
Somebody
that.
not from
Thank you
Good
very
Walk,
much.
please second it. Let's just not.
I'll second it.
Well, JT, please. That's great. Sorry, I just saw JT's on first. If you can make a note of that, Phil, I appreciate it. You couldn't do me a favour and write the question, could you?
Indeed, I will. I will right now.
Thank you.
One moment.
I think I put it in the chat.
Oh, great.
I think you can just do a cut and copy.
Yep.
I don't trust myself.
You rock. Thank you, sir. I will do that right now. Coming up.
I'm trying to be efficient, you see. But
you are. You have. Yes. You have. Can't ask for a better. I don't think we could ask for a better chair. It is now.
Can I ask that when we vote that we put your
BP or group name?
BP or group name, please. I'm not voting, Roger. I presume that you're voting for us.
I'm mobile. Can someone add me to the roster and vote no for blind block art?
I'll do it for you, Jerry.
Thanks. Network issues.
CPU. Well, I'm going to jump right in and say that I've got suspicion that this is a no today, which means that we have now go to section B on the agenda, which is to discuss and highlight moving forward and proposing a date for the next meeting of the launch call. So I'm going to be quiet now and either let Douglas talk us through what we think or someone from the development team. But basically, go on.
Thanks, Jim. I would propose 2 weeks from today, another vote. Maybe we could, with the idea that at that time we may be able to set an actual date. If that vote is itself not a yes, we may be able to discuss setting a date, setting voting at that time for a go no go vote within 2 or 3 days, as a possibility, not a requirement. But 2 weeks, I think, is what I would propose for.
Okay,
Douglas, I'm assuming if we vote in 2 weeks, we won't need to have arbitrator insurance in place by then. That's something we can pick up after.
I think we almost have to. Hopefully, we will have a chance. It would be very nice if in that 2 weeks we were able to discuss timing to vote for a board. I'm not sure, but I think we may have to actually launch. We may have to close and launch, and and figure out what the TFVT tokens are. And so therefore we really can't take any action until there's a board in place. We can research. So what I think we'll do is we will hopefully move quickly on that, but just simply not actually do any arbitration until we've researched the insurance.
Well, okay. I've got calls out to insurance agents, but no one's jumping at the chance to reply. So I'm going to have to push some more buttons.
That's great. Thanks, Brett. And again, it happens mostly invisibly, but I would like to call out that Brett is doing an incredible amount of work on behalf of the arbitration system and getting arbitrators. So thanks for that.
Okay, so the 2 weeks' time is the 31st, and I put that suggestion on the agenda, which is there. Do we want to, before we move to vote for that, do we want to do any further discussion about? We've got B says that we have we're going to proceed to highlight outstanding tasks and apply timelines. Is that something we want to do in this meeting, or are we going to do that on the launch group calls? And if so, is one launch group call sufficient per week? I'm asking everybody.
I didn't understand the question.
Sorry, Marlon. Do we want to discuss the checklist and put timelines against working groups and ask chairs to report back on things, or are we just going to let people get on in their own working groups? And if so, if we're going to discuss the checklist from now on, is one launch group call sufficient per week?
I don't mind twice a week, even if it's just a very brief call to help us refocus and stay on point. I mean, we're so close to the edge. What's a 15-minute call at this point?
Yeah, I agree with Brett as well. That was sort of echoes my.
Thank you. Anybody else got a view?
Same view. Yeah, we've got to keep the momentum going, haven't we? So maybe that's what it needs. Twice a week call sounds like a good idea.
That sounds good to me. And maybe it sounds like a few things do come up. Like, I don't know that we necessarily need to look at the launch schedule again for another week or so, because progress is being made, and looking at it doesn't, nobody is unaware of where they land on that. However, there are, as we've seen, there are some last minute proposals that are that should be discussed, and we may want to leave time on our schedules blocked out should they come up. There's a few things we need to talk about. There's so that leaving the Friday thing in the schedule might be convenient for everybody just to know it's there.
Okay, thank you. So what? Sorry, Mark, carry on.
I would just want to add that the discussions really still need to happen in Slack. So please don't wait for them to happen in these meetings, because we simply don't have the time for them. So let's break these down in depth in Slack and use the time that we're all together just to make our votes and stay on top of the primary issues.
I think you're getting a lot of support on that one, Mark. I do agree with that. Although it is sometimes difficult to follow what's going on in Slack, but we are doing that, and we are making amendments. The only thing that, from trying to chair these things point of view, is that if I'm honest, I think that the tips have blindsided me a little bit, because I'm not sure about how far down the line we need to vote each tip, and whether these tips are critical before the launch. Should we be voting on them every week, or should it be something that can wait till after launch? I'm a little bit lacking in understanding on that, and I need a bit of help and assistance to decide which tips should come to meetings and which tips shouldn't, and if we can prioritise those.
Well, clearly a number of the tips are, were needed to be implemented before launch if they were to be approved and implemented, which sort of suggests that maybe they were a bit late, weren't they? But tips could kind of come in at any point. But obviously, if it would be a good idea to do them before launch, then obviously that's what would need to be done if they got voted in.
But as the chair of the meeting, Jim, I think it's important that you reach out in the tips channel and ask for some sort of prioritization with regards to which issues need to be brought to the group when.
Thank you, Mark. I have actually done that this morning, and you probably realised and highlighted that for me, so thank you for that. And I think I will work in the tips channel, and if we can get some idea of priority in there, then obviously I will put them in the agenda. I think it's up to the people on the tips channel to then be sensible about what can be brought forward and the time it needs to explain and for that process to come forward. So if we actually haven't got a process yet, I will start to manage that process and work that up. So thanks for that, Mark. I'll carry on doing that. Yes,
somebody in Slack has suggested that a tip should be mentioned on at least one meeting prior. I don't know if that's our standard or not, but in case it is, I've added tip 23, which is an alternative approach to increasing BP pay for 1 year on a limited schedule, and I would encourage people to take a look at that. That's in the tips channel.
Okay. Yeah, I think you put it in the general channel as well, Douglas. So
I did. Yeah. Sorry to duplicate.
Yeah. So, well, no, I think you should duplicate, and I think it's beholden on people, founder members or whatever we're called, to, if the tip is put in the general channel, for us to look at it and for us to try and have to join the debate on them and not just suddenly get blindsided. If it comes up on a call. The reason I've got a slight issue with timing of it and why we had a problem yesterday was this was a call. This call was backed onto the call yesterday, and there wasn't a week. We can't do a timeline on something that we haven't got a fixed timeline on. Now we've got 2 weeks definite, so we can do something in those 2 weeks. But when you come in close up to a deadline, which was this deadline, that wasn't a manageable situation. So let's try and move forward and manage those tips in an orderly way. Yeah, Douglas.
I still think even with 2 weeks or potentially 3 weeks, I'd be very surprised if we go much beyond 3 weeks. I think we're on. We still need to think about giving these a week. Almost maximum. That's the minimum and probably also the maximum that something would need for discussion, because we don't have a lot of time, and there might be alternative approaches to different things. And it is unfortunate they're coming up at this late hour, but I think it's just a necessary part of the process. And I don't think anybody is holding these for later. These issues come up as we get close to the end and realize, holy moly, we're about to launch the network. We better fix.
Okay, so
question.
Yeah.
Much like was mentioned before the EOS launch, where they did not have a code lock, and so Dawn 3.0, 4.0, 6.0, whatever was being written, hours before launch. Do we want some sort of a regulation lock or anything like that here so that nothing changes in the last week before we go?
What if we discover something important that needs to change? Does that mean we hold the launch for an extra week just for that?
No, and that's a great point. I just, it seemed like last time around, things were changing at the last minute and that weren't going to be worked through, so it almost created more problems.
The network group would like at least 3 days of testing for any.
That seems very reasonable to me.
I think we'll bear that in mind. Does that answer your question, Brett?
So we will have a code freeze of at least 3 days before launch.
Yeah, I'm not a code person. I'm just commenting as an outside observer.
Okay, thank you. I feel it's a bit, unless somebody in the Slack, in the chat is really against 2 weeks. I feel it's a bit redundant to all of us have to type in yes for the next meeting to be on the 31st. Can I just have thumbs or just sort of, if anybody says...
Just be a dictator and announce it.
Sorry?
Just be a dictator and announce it.
Yeah, I'm going to, Jerry. I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that the chair says that the next meeting is the 31st of October. Is anyone going to quibble with the chair? Anybody? Anybody?
Is anybody going to dress up?
My Voltron shirts.
Okay. We bow to the chair. I like that. Thank you for that one. I'm going to frame that one. So, without further ado, unless anybody's got anything pressing to say, the other thing I will say is that there were 1 or 2 important points that were written in the governance report yesterday. So just make sure that you double check that agenda from yesterday. I will put it in the Slack channel. Anybody else? Can I close the meeting?
Try to approve any submissions that are going into the Slice and Pie app. We are coming to the cliff edge. Thank you.
Telos talks tonight at 2300 TC. We have Syed, but 1 or 2 more would be great. So just let me know in general on Slack if you would like to join.